this is your safety. Like, just as the natal chart in terms of doing your worksheets and doing the steps to get the natal, gives you, is the boat or the structures that lets you go into the ocean of meaning of astrology. It gives you a structure to work with. This is the map that lets you drive the boat and know where to go and see the relevance of where you are. See what you're doing and where you're going in your life. There's still choices on what you do and how will you do it, but it's measuring the attitudes, and it gives you the direction of effort. And when someone knows this, it's very, really supportive for what they're doing. Okay. Now, there's another chart that I do, and we haven't done this yet, and it's something that I do always for, we've got all the major things, we got all the main decisions, we see where life's going, everything. We have the 8-year graph going on backwards, and we have the 30-year cycles, the life of Saturn, and we see the 8-year graph, anything, outer planets, and on this outer planet graph, we just put conjunction squares and oppositions, just at the outer planets to the inners, and to the angles, the big stuff that you've got to personally react to. Other stuff can be there. We don't need to pay attention. We want to see the big stuff, the things that you're going to talk about, and they're going to know immediately, yes, that's happening, and they can see it. Okay, so that's the 8-year graph. Then I do a two-year printout. I take the planets. I'll make this a bit bigger so we can see it. There you go. Okay, this is done in Matrix or WinStar, and I take the planets Mars out to Pluto. I do the transits from Mars out to Pluto, and I use the hard aspects. So I include the semi-squares and the sesquiquadrates or the 135s. But really, you could just do it with the conjunction squares and oppositions, and usually they're the ones. And then I go through it, and I don't mark it. I mark in what I think was major. Like in this case, in September, just past, Mars went over his first house. Well, I've been in his 12th house through the summer, as Saturn was opposing his sun. Whoa, so in the last couple of weeks, there's been a change as Mars went into his first house. And that's right, it's still got the Saturn and the Neptune confusion there, but you can see that shift. And right, just last week, Jupiter went over his IC. His motivation, his living, there's some opportunity, but at the same time, that's opposing the midheaven. So how he wants to live, how he wants to do things with his understanding. He's almost finished the astrology classes. So there's a focus on being motivated by Jupiter and understanding it, but the potential of misunderstandings about what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do could be there too. Jupiter going to the 4th house is not hitting up, it's not necessarily that bad, but Jupiter can always cause excessive things. It's like almost like Neptune, but it can cause exaggerations, but it changes your understanding. Your outlook is changing. He's being motivated in a new way, or in a bigger way. So I put that down. Then there's a bunch of Mars square Mercury conjunct Jupiter. I didn't say it with the conjunct Jupiter. I put it in Mars square opposed to Moon. You could mark it, but these are all 1 week aspects to 3-day aspects, the Mars ones. But Pluto station is like this, not touching anything, so I don't put it in. We got too much information, so we're trying to get back to what we don't need to know. Mars squares the Sun. If someone is having anger problems, I would probably have these Mars squares and oppositions marked in more. But I put the Jupiter in because Jupiter in November is going to oppose his Mercury, and there's an exaggeration, a struggle with his understanding. What I want to do, do you understand me? Don't you understand me? Here's what I want to do, what's happening. There's some puzzle that could be a struggle with what his kids are taking at university and what he thinks they should be taking. You know, it could be a challenge with the wife and what she thinks they're thinking. It says there's some new comprehension coming in, but at the moment it's opposing the midheaven and opposing the Mercury. It's changes from the home and trying to understand what's changing at the home, and it's perhaps causing some reassessment of the outer situation. Then Jupiter square Jupiter and put it down. Mars squares oppose Saturn. No, I put the Jupiter square the Moon, and then because he has the motivation by Jupiter, by Sag, and he has Jupiter Mercury strong factor. So I put in the Jupiter square to the Moon. Again, this before Christmas, before the holidays, and all the worry about family and excessive about things with family, some adjustment of one's understanding during that, or some exaggeration of one's feelings. Okay, how it should be. Then Mars Venus didn't put it in. I put in the Saturn moving into the 5th house. It's gone out of the 4th, is going to 5th house of kids, of work, of skills. The need to build up skills, that's there. Then Jupiter, in January 2020, Jupiter opposes the Sun. So in knowing that, Jupiter, when it opposes the Sun, we've dealt with this. For 6 years, for 6 years, Jupiter conjunction Sun, and for 6 years, you're trying things and seeing where it's going to go. You're setting things in motion and you're seeing where it's going to go and you're learning as you go. Try it, let's see where it goes, and luck is kind of with you. At the opposition, you can't do that anymore. So he's been doing that for 6 years. Now he has to understand what he's getting into before he gets into it, because they don't want to waste his energy so much as having to understand first and then guide his actions by his understanding. So, whoa, I got to understand. So it's a reevaluation. Once this reevaluation is done, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, how do I understand where I'm going first, rather than running around trying to do everything. So after he's had the Saturn, there's the Jupiter. And maybe everybody's making demands on what he should do. He's having to assess what's really worth doing, what's not. But once that's done, it'll guide him through the next 6 years. And Jupiter then links up, working positively, understanding what's good and what's not. Whereas for the last 6 years, just doing whatever's lucky, whatever's opening up. This is like, wait a second. There's an reassessment understanding that's coming up in January. So we're adding another texture into the Saturn graph, but this is the personal stuff. I started from 1 month before I do the session, 1 month to 2 months. So like it's the middle of October, I do from the 1st of September for 2 years. So I'm seeing almost 2 years ahead, but 1 year back. So I can see the energy that the person came in to get the session for. So that understanding comes in. It's trying to understand, what can I hold it all together? What am I doing? What's happening? And then Neptune comes in and scores his midheaven on top of that in February. So since Neptune's exact on February 17th, but really because Neptune's slow moving, it's going to conclude that it's going to include most of January, including that Jupiter opposition. It's going to come in with the Neptune, and the Neptune is going to, then the Mars is going to oppose the Sun, and it's going to be really frustrating for him. And Neptune's going to be there this whole time. So it could be a problem with someone at work, problem with what he wants to do, one of the kids not wanting to go the way he wants to go, or what. It's hard to say, but you can see this puzzle is there. And that means his normal controls of things, Sun in the 10th house, is somewhat limited. He's scrambling for the first part of next year. So you have to be careful when you're talking to someone, they come to see you before you're going to work on the Jupiter to the Sun, to the Moon, and you're going to explain the Jupiter, the change that Jupiter opposing the Sun brings about. And the Saturn going to 5th, you see the focus can be more on the kids. That's why I'm saying that. But the Neptune, you got to watch how much you can hold, how much there's confusion around work. You could easily be out of work and temping or not finding work, or you could be doing too much work. Or there could be some confusion with a boss or something at work or over authority. Like he's tired and he can't keep up with things, overextended. So maybe he tried to push and push and push through Saturn opposing his Sun anyways. He's tired. So you can see this big puzzle. His Neptune dissolves the old attitudes. And because Mars opposes the Sun at the same time, there's an irritableness around this, there's an edgy and temperament around this. Then from there, Neptune's going to go and oppose his ascendant by April. So you see, it's giving you a breakdown within the 8 years of what's going on inside of the 30-year graph we have, the lifetime graph of Saturn. We're seeing 4 years back, 4 years forward. We're seeing that there's big things going on. We're seeing exactly, but you have to remember, there's the Mars opposition to the Sun on March 3rd. That's 3 days either side. But the Neptune conjunction the Moon, midheaven, that's up to a month and a half before and after, within 1 degree. And then it's going to oppose the descendant, oppose the ascendant, conjunct the descendant in April, still tied into this. So there's, from the beginning of January right through till he gets to May, he doesn't get a break. There's a confusion and a fog going around. Sorrows, guilt, dependencies, expectations, all these things are coming up. And he's got to, like, you're not making this up. You don't know exactly what it is, but he's got to navigate through that. And in the process, it's dissolving his old willpower of what he wants to do. There's complications, confusions. Do I stay or do I go? What am I doing? What should I do? What can I do? I can't put up with this anymore. There's things going on like this. Some puzzle of Neptune. Now, then an interesting thing happens in May. Uranus conjuncts Venus. I haven't highlighted it as a big one, but I marked it because it's certainly changing his attitude to what responsibility is and what Saturn is. So if things aren't working and things are failing with the Neptune to the Saturn, to the Neptune to the midheaven and Neptune opposing the ascendant and Saturn opposing the sun, he hasn't been lucky with that for the last few years. So, but Uranus is beginning to, I'm going to try something different. Maybe he starts working with astrology. Maybe he starts doing some other things to make money from other than the stuff he's doing. He's going to at least be feeling the need to change things, to go in a new direction. Then Neptune backs up, and Saturn backs up into, Saturn was in Aquarius, backs up to Capricorn for a little while. No, Saturn, no, Saturn's just, yeah, it goes back into Capricorn. No, it's just, yeah, it's going back into Capricorn for a little while from July. And then, just, I don't ignore all these little things. They're there. You can get into them if it's the week you're in, but like, it's not, usually you don't need to get into this at all because it's taking care of the bigger view. Knowing what you navigate is the really good advice. Then Neptune has to descend again in September. Normally it's when the kids are going back to school. But it's, I think what I want, what the wife wants, what we want for the kids, he's got a confusion in his identity. He's not focused. He's not sure what he should do. And if this is coming as an evasiveness, I don't want to deal with this anymore. He's pulling away. He's going to be pulling away more and more. If he's drinking, he's going to be drinking like a fish. I don't think he drinks. So like that's, I think it's more expectations around family and stuff. But then it's not his move. He's just got to keep it simple and minimize the guilt, the confusions or dependencies. And then it lifts. But just as it starts to lift again, by December next year, Uranus conjuncts to Saturn again, and he gets this hit of, I want to do something different. He wants to change his sense of responsibility. So that sets up, and then a few months later, when the Neptune in February, that's December, then in February, Neptune opposes the ascendant again. Again, the confusion about what I'm doing, but then right at the same time almost, around Valentine's Day, Uranus hits the Mercury, hits the Saturn. He still wants to make the conjunction is what he wants to go. The Neptune is a confusion that's still tangling around him. Maybe the old job. But then after that lifts, that's the last hit of February 21. That's the last hit of the confusion, and it's going to go on. Well, a lot of little aspects you can go through, but when you look at the big thing, then Mars conjuncts the Sun by May 21. He's pumped up. He's going, is doing what he wants to do. He's strong. And then Jupiter squares Mars, gets more aggressive through 21. And